Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, I'm going to try and keep this short and still give you a lot of info. This is the S031G. This is actually my older frame with the newer parts on it. Mainly the bronze tail ends and bronze canopy. The battery and PCB board out of the new one as well. Now you're going to say, why? Okay, here's the deal. My Camel one was giving me some problems, and I finally snapped the blade and didn't have spares. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, throw it on the shelf. And I did have some range issues with it and whatnot, and I was forever adjusting this thing, and I probably still got a few more tweaks before it'll get perfect. But I figured, you know what, I'm going to stop messing with this PCB for now. And I was also getting tired of this friggin' 2.5 hour charge time on this lithium-ion battery. Kind of drove me nuts. Now this is the gyro from the old S031G, which they've now actually integrated into the PCB on the new one. Now the new PCB board also runs at 9.6 volts as opposed to 7.4. The battery is 800 milliamp lipo cell instead of 1100 milliamp lithium ion. Lithium ion batteries I'm really not too keen on. Even in cordless tools, they're not the world's best. I'd rather run a NiCad and a cordless tool over a lithium ion. Lipo cells, they put out quite nicely actually. They seem to drive more voltage to everything and more stable too. So I'm going to stick with the lipos on the helicopter stuff and probably on airplanes when I get into airplanes more. But anyway, another reason why I switched the guts into this was the gear problem. This is the gear out of my new S031G, and it only has one retention screw to hold the shaft on for the top rotor assembly. And this thing kept loosening off, and during flight, when it would loosen off, it would cause slop in here between the gear and the shaft, and it would cause blade slap to happen, and of course I crashed. I didn't crash too many times. I was able to, recover quite a few times, get to the ground safe. But I did have one crash that didn't go so well, which ended up in slamming into a tree and nosediving from about 30 feet. And what happened was, this bottom plate right here, this is all you get on the new frame. You don't get this really nice plastic blade, battery holder. All you get is this little tongue piece. So they've gotten rid of the battery holder, which is not only screwed in from the bottom, but also screws in from the top end, and makes it very strong and very durable. And your canopy is surrounding all this, so that's going to take a good shake. So if your canopy pops even, you're not likely going to break this battery holder at all. It's pretty tough. And this one's taken quite a number of dumps when all the old guts were in this body before I snapped the blade. I just don't have spare blades right now. But I thought, you know what? Both machines are down right now. This one, the screw actually snapped off as I was trying to undo it, so I had to actually get that shaft out of there, and I managed to get it apart, thankfully. But it also only had one notch cut out on the shaft because it only had one screw hole. This one has two screws on the plastic white gear and two cutouts on the shaft. So I've never ever once had a problem with anything loosening off or getting a blade slap from this and crash into the dirt. Whereas the other one, I've had it a couple of times there. But you can see on the side view here, there's two screws that are holding that in there. And so that's double strength there. So any flex or movement, it's not going to back out those screws. I've never once had an issue with it. I'm not sure to say 100% sure if the motors are exactly the same, or if the gearing ratio is actually different in here. But, I was going to get that chance until this messed up on me to check. But only at a quarter throttle, not even actually, I can now get this bird off the ground with, and it's the same frame, it's the same weight, it's the same blades, same, upper balance bar, all that stuff is the same. And the motors appear to be exactly the same, So the only thing I've changed here is the battery and the PCB. Now, yes, you get higher voltage, so you get a higher spin rate, but okay, let's go through this. These two pieces here were in the other frame, and yet I had to be at almost half throttle to get off the ground with these gears, even when these were tight, okay? The top gear that runs the bottom blade never did loosen off. It's actually still held in with 2 screws. But even when this one was tight to get it off the ground, I'm still at almost half throttle. So I'm kind of curious on there if it's a motor thing, where it's spinning things faster because I'm driving more voltage to the engines, or if it's actually a gearing ratio thing. So kind of hard to say on there, but the only way to find out for sure would be to put a brand new set of all these black gears into this frame, and if everything meshes properly, well, then it's definitely a motor thing. But the motors look exactly the same, they have the same markings, so who knows. But higher voltage you would think would be a difference, and you know, but that's what I'm saying here too, is could it be the guts? It's hard to say, but I'm trying to sway away from that it's just the guts that are making the difference here between the PCB and the battery, because this PC and battery is in this same chassis. It's the same helicopter. All the weights are the same, the blades are the same, you know, so it's either gears or motor. But anyways, it's a benefit, and I'm liking it. Charge time on this LiPo battery, by the way, is only about an hour. Charge time on this lithium-ion 7.4 volt 1100 milliamp is about 2.5 hours. Okay, kind of sucks. So I can actually fly this thing twice with this battery before this is even charged once. That's pathetic. So I'm glad they did the upgrade to the LiPo, and I'm glad they integrated the gyro into the board too. It's less wires hanging out here, less things to get caught or damaged. And this is the part I'm calling the gyro here, and I'm suspecting it's the gyro because when you look at the circuit board, there's absolutely nothing on here that would actually create a circuit to make a gyro, with the exception of having this added in. So this, I'm pretty sure, is the gyro. But anyway, this PCB board being the older one, this is a 7.4 volt board, it could probably use the 9.6, but I also had issues with this board too, with the frequency adjuster pod down in here, and this uses a very fine, very precise fit flat blade screwdriver to be able to adjust this without cracking the ceramic on it, because it's a ceramic turning screw inside. That's the only way I can really explain it in layman's terms. But this controls your frequency connection between the board and your transmitter. So, you know, this has to be set. And it does have playroom, so if you're not precisely dead bang on, it's not a huge deal. But the closer you can get it, the better flight experience you're going to have. The other thing I did with this is I tried resoldering the board too to make better connections, because I found there were some very poor connections. And that didn't improve a lot of things either. So, you know, this new PCB, I get great distance with this machine now. I get better responses, faster responses, etc., etc. And the LiPo cell is actually an awesome little upgrade into this machine. However, the cage is what you're not going to get in the new machine. So if you can get your hands on an older one, swap this cage in before you break the bottom tongue off, and it'll stay together a lot better. Okay, now the other thing on this cage, there was a tongue that ran across the front of here which actually kept the other battery in there in place, besides being strapped. But this one here, it's just being strapped in place, and it's not going to move on me. But I had to take the tongue off to be able to slide this battery in there, and it's a bit of a push because it's a bit of a tight fit, because you'll notice that, you know, it's not perfectly straight underneath. It's a little bit bowed in or bowed down. But it's actually worth doing it. It really is. And not having that wire going to the gyro up on the side, that's going to create less hassles when you have to take the canopy off. You're not going to flick your finger in there and break the wire off the board or anything. You know, so that was a really good upgrade they did there too. But overall, the test flight that I just finished doing a while back worked out great. I'm actually going to record a test flight with this when the wind calms down a bit more, and you'll see how much better it flies now, and can compare it to my other videos with this gold hardware on here, because it would, the other video I have is actually the original gold machine with this hardware in it, but with the black gears, and you'll see the difference when you look at the video. And you'll see the changes in this one for being the difference. The other thing too that I changed on this helicopter was the back rotor blade. Now this rotor blade is actually the same one that comes with the S033, or if you have a Skyline RC M1 chasing, this rotor blade fits on the shaft just nicely. Screw it in place, away you go, and it's going to give you more wind push power for forward and reversed. So it's actually a nice improvement over the rear rotor blade that actually comes on the machine, which actually isn't bad. You know, it's good if you have, you know, indoor flying, but if you want to do outdoor flying and have a better experience in, say, 5, 10, 15 kilometer an hour wind, I wouldn't go past 15. This rotor blade is going to do a much better job for you for outdoor flying experience as opposed to the one that comes on it. So a couple little tweaks and mods. So look at the parts list that's available for the S033G or S033. Grab that rear rotor blade, grab a few of those, because if you do snap one, you're going to want a spare, and change that out. That's one change. The next change you're going to want to do is get your hands on this LiPo battery and this newer PCB and the battery cage. Plastic white gears have 2 screws instead of the 1 screw. Okay, so I'll show you that again. You've got 2 screws that hold your main shaft in, and see if the shaft that you order has 2 notches for the screws. If not, it's not hard to take a file and just carefully file that notch in there and line it up with the other side of the notch, and a little mod you can do, and this will never work loose on you again. It's going to stay. Like I'm wiggling this here, and as you can see, the gear is moving with it. There's no slop. It's absolutely none. So that's perfect, and it does not work loose in flight. This is not going to guarantee you're not going to get a blade slap happen, because, you know, these things naturally sit pretty low as it is if you look at it. So if you throttle down too much and you're coming down too fast, you could still get a blade slap. But it's not going to happen as often either as it would if you stuck with that new black gear system that always works loose, because once this shaft works loose down here, you're going to get blade slap real easy. You're going to get uneven RPMs up here, which is going to cause problems. You know, I was forever retightening this thing, and it just drove me buggy. So I was glad I got the opportunity to be able to swap the parts between the 2 machines. And so now it's great. But anyway, that's a little mod. So the next video you're going to see is going to be this bird up in the air and showing how much better it is with this setup. And so we'll see you on the next video, okay? So thanks for watching.